Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. I'm Paul Clark and welcome to my studio. So, what have I got for you lovely lot today? Well, it just so happens that Watercolour Wednesday this year falls on Christmas Day. So I'm guessing a lot of you are going to be fairly busy with all sorts of things and probably won't have time for painting. So I thought we'd do something slightly different this week. Now, a few months ago, I was talking to a student at one of our workshops and he said he'd love to see a tutorial on talking about my favourite 10 paintings that I've done and the reason why I like them. Now, I've always found it fairly difficult talking about my own work. I don't know if it's that self-deprecating British thing. I mean, after all, Hugh Grant's made a career out of it. Now, my dear old dad, bless him, who was a professional photographer all his life, and he took loads of pictures of famous people, won loads of awards. I think he even won a colour television back in the 60s, which was quite a big thing for the time. But if you were to praise him on any particular photo, like he might have been strapped to the bottom of a plane to get a great angle, he'd say something like, "Well, yes, I suppose it's not a bad photo." But I think it's the same with most artists. Now, there's nothing wrong with being proud of your work, of course, but I don't think you'd get many artists saying, "Look at this wonderful painting that I've done. Look, haven't I painted the bridge really well?" It just doesn't seem to happen. Anyway, just for a bit of fun, I thought I'd give you my top 10 paintings that I've painted and the reason why I like them. And some of these you may even recognise from previous YouTube tutorials. So, come and join me and we'll paint these step by step together. Oh no, that doesn't really work this time. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. So this first one you may recognise from the picture that hangs behind me. It's a Paris cafe scene painted back in 2016 from one of my photos. Now, as much as I do like it, I haven't painted in this detailed way for years. Now, if you look carefully, you may even be able to tell what the plat du jour is on the menu board. Now, it probably took me nearly a week to paint, and I do remember thinking, I'm getting a bit bored of painting this about 3/4 of the way through, but I do love the vibrant colours and that dramatic perspective of the buildings converging towards the top of the painting. And I always think it's great to look back and see how your style has changed and developed over the years. And here is a recent photo of the same cafe. Next for my number 9. Now, I don't paint that many still lifes, but I was particularly pleased with this one, and it's available as a full YouTube tutorial if you're interested, link above. Now, I think the wet in wet fuzzy background worked really well with a nice bit of granulation from the French ultramarine blue. There's also a nice looseness in the flowers, and I love the light catching the top edge. Now, a lot of that is down to the great photo reference. Now, I think I've just put in the right amount of detail in the fruit and cuts without overworking it, and I just love that yellow reflection of the lemon in the coffee mug. Now, the foreground tablecloth also nice and simple, lots of quick economical brushstrokes. Next, number 8. Now you might be thinking, hang on Paul, that's not one of yours. It looks suspiciously like a Vincent Van Gogh. Well, it is. It's from an exercise that we did in one of my weekly classes, learning to paint from the masters, which I think can be an invaluable lesson. That's why I have my inspiration series here on YouTube. Now, I'm a huge fan of dear old Vincent, and although his most famous paintings were all done in oil, I thought it was a good fun exercise to convert one to watercolour. So each student had a different one of his paintings to change into a watercolour, and I remember it was a very popular session. Everyone really enjoyed it. So this is just my small tribute to the great man. Number 7, and this is another one of my early YouTube video tutorials dating back to early 2020. Now, I've chosen this because of the simplicity of the composition. Just a lonely boat in a tranquil setting. The background above is very nondescript, helping to focus attention on the boat. Now, there's a good sense of light in the water, and I feel I've captured the ripples in the water quite well. I like the limited palette, and the red and green stripes on the boat are very muted, helping to suggest an evening or early morning. The details in the boat are all very loose and suggestive, and I've not been tempted to paint in every plank of wood on the boat's hull. I think this whole painting is about keeping it simple. Number 6. Now this one is an interesting one for a number of reasons. It's another one of my highly detailed paintings dating back to 2016. To start with, I think it's the only painting I've ever done where the human form is the main feature of the painting. But there's also a little story which goes along with this painting. It was based on a photo that I took from the last holiday I had with my late wife Diana in the stunning resort at Lake Annecy in France. Now, we just had a delicious lunch and was strolling back to the hotel along the promenade when we heard this sound in the distance. As we approached, we met this group of dancers, the young and the not so young, all totally absorbed in the moment and clearly enjoying themselves. Now, I'm quite pleased with the whole feel of the painting and even captured a bit of movement in the lady dancing in the red. Now, I have a video on painting movement, link below in the description if you're interested. Now, some of the faces are a little off possibly, but I think I've captured the essence of the dancers at Annecy. Now, sadly, my wife lost her fight against cancer a few months later, so this painting always holds special memories. Now, this next one is a project that we did in class, and it was all about how to create textures, and I threw everything at this one: salt, acrylic ink, soft pastels, scraping and scoring. I also like the fairly limited palette with complementary colours and the white vignette style edge around the painting, sort of giving it that nice semi-abstract stylised feel. Number 4. Now this one is a very recent one, straight from my latest sketchbook, and I reckon it took no more than about 10 minutes. I love the spontaneity of it. It's super loose and was painted without any real plan. Now, I like the slightly unnatural colours. I think there's some phthalo greens and blues in this one, along with some warmer cobalt blue. All great fun and finished off with a touch of white gel pen. I even like the ragged border where the paint had crept under the masking tape. Number 3, and this is the ruined Scottish Croft from 2019. Now, I'm not sure where I got the reference from. Some of it could be made up, but it's from my transitional phase where I'm trying to loosen up a bit, but it still has a lot of details. I like the warm yellowish light to the whole scene, and I've really gone for the textures here. There's wax resist, salt, loads of splattering and scoring with the end of my brush, and I love those touches of orange growth on the roof and on the rust on the porch. Again, less is more with the details on the wall. Not every stone has been painted in. Nearly there. Number 2, another Scottish scene, and this one also has a step-by-step tutorial on YouTube, a link above. Again, I can't recall the reference, but I know that I did change the composition quite a bit on this one. I think the overall word to describe this painting is atmosphere. It has a real serene feel to it, and the choice of complementary oranges and golds with the bluey greys give a nice harmony and balance. The little bit of mist around the top of the mountains work well, and that dry brush technique on the hanging nets gives that little touch of suggested details. Lots of splattering in the walls and beach, and of course a lot of wet in wet reflections from the bottom of the boats. Now, before the number 1, a few honourable mentions. Now, this one was a very enjoyable afternoon spent with Margot painting plein air of the cottage B&B that we stayed in Gomera in Cornwall. Now, I don't think we saw a car all day. This one, well, I need to include at least one line and wash, and it's another painting done plein air on some cheap sketching paper just with an ordinary ballpoint pen. And it's of the ridiculously pretty village of Lusley in Devon. Back to France again, and this is a little village near Célère in central France. Now, we stayed in a lovely hotel here with a stunning view. A bit of a chewy steak, if I remember correctly. Anyway, I like this as it's nearly semi-abstract. Lots of unpainted areas, and I really like those loose brushstrokes. There's also a lot of mixed media going on here with soft pastels and white gouache. Number 1. Now, this painting goes way back, even before I put dates on them, but I reckon this one's about 25 years old. Now, it's a painting taken from an old 35mm slide that I took of the Norfolk Broads way back in the 70s when I was on a boating holiday with my mates. How we were ever allowed to hire one of those, I'll never know. Anyway, it's always been one of my favourites. I love the monotone feel with all the shades of blues and greys. And there's just the right amount of loose brushwork, but still plenty of detail. I like the glistening light, both on the water and the wet sand, with some controlled areas of dry brush. Again, it's all about the atmosphere created. And I can still remember clearly chugging across that great expanse of water in our little hired boat on the way to Great Yarmouth for a night out. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and you'll give it a go. Oh no, that doesn't work either. Anyway, I hope you got something from that and you enjoyed it. And don't forget to check out below in the description for any of our workshops, events and holidays. We've got lots of exciting things for 2025. And of course, please don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment. I do read every single one. Can't always reply to them all. And of course, have a wonderful Christmas, a great new year, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care.